Hi, this video is about using AI image generation tools for speculative design, especially for writers. My name is Jamie Littlefield, and I'm a graduate student at Texas Tech University, earning a PhD in their Tech Com and Rhetoric program. So I wanted to start by telling you about this empty lot that is just across the street from where I live. And this is an actual picture of it. Um, it's been that way for a while, and I've started to think about what potential futures could be in store for this lot. And last year, I started using AI image generation tools like DALL-E 2 and Midjourney to create some renderings, imagining what might happen to this lot. And I thought, maybe it might end up as housing, which is desperately needed here in Utah. Or maybe it could be a community garden. And that one especially got me excited because I love to grow vegetables. And my neighborhood definitely has a need for affordable or free food. Thinking about some other options, I imagined what if there was a gas station there, and I hated that idea. I thought that that would just not be a good use of our space. But having another energy source there didn't really seem like it would be a reasonable use either. Maybe something like a neighborhood brewery or a little neighborhood restaurant would be great there. Or maybe we could even just use the space for community gatherings to get people together while it's still empty. By creating these little images with AI, I was able to think more clearly about what kind of development would be good for the public and also start up some conversations with my neighbors just about some new possibilities. So in this short presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I've been engaging with AI image generation. I'm going to suggest speculative design as a way that writers can use AI as a tool. I'm going to show you briefly how writers and non-designers can engage in this work and discuss a few of the most relevant theoretical concepts related to AI as a tool for speculative design. So I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to thinking about cities and communication. And specifically, I get really excited when I have the chance to think about the ways we communicate about city planning and how those ways end up influencing the actual built environment, like our roadways, our schools, and our public spaces, in really material ways. So in the summer of 2022, I got really wrapped up in a passion project, and I spent hours figuring out how to use AI to create images like these ones for the lot across from my house. And I've been really involved in community building up to this point, and I started to see what a powerful tool AI could be. Tech tools have been influencing the way we've been thinking about what's possible in city planning long before this. And you have developers and city officials who have access to advanced rendering programs to create these images of this is what it could look like in the future in a way that we really don't have just as community advocates. For example, I like to think about the time an entity came into our community and was trying to convince the neighborhood that they should get special exceptions from zoning and that they should get tax increment financing, which, it's asking a lot from the people who are sharing the tax burden. And so they were asking for a lot of exceptions and to be treated specially. And they were using this image just of what they were telling us the project could be. And it was beautiful. It looked great. And I've been fooled by these a few too many times when they build something that looks completely different later. This one, though, I could call them on it because I live in like a mountainous area of like northern Utah. And all along their beautiful landscaping were these massive palm trees, which is not, you do not grow palm trees where I live. So I could tell that, you really, the people who are presenting this were just using it as a rhetorical tool, and they hadn't thought about, here our landscape or our specific needs. But all too often, just as citizens and residents, we kind of get caught up in these specialized rendered images that have been created with technology. And now AI is kind of giving us a little bit of the power back to be able to look at these projects and say, hey, here's another alternative, or here's a possibility, and help people imagine things in a different way. So I'm really excited about that. So using those tools, I started talking to some of my developer friends, my urban planner friends, and I ended up creating a little urban planning book that helps users reimagine urban spaces using DALL-E 2, and a lot of this will work for programs like Midjourney as well. And ultimately, this little book got shared on a number of websites like Strong Towns and Street Blog. And I'd like to invite you to take a look at it if you want to see some of the more kind of pragmatic ways of using these tools for speculative design. And in the book, I'll show you step by step, here's how you can take an image in, like, just take a photo in your city, and then here's how you can edit it using these AI image generators. And then I give you a bunch of words that you could use for prompts. So I'm providing that for you, and please take a look at you like and share with your students. After I had spent an unfortunate amount of time engaged in this passion project, I thought maybe I should take a look at what I was doing and how it kind of is relevant to rhetoric and writing and composition, and whether or not this might be of interest in an academic context and something that my future writing students could use. And what I found is that AI tools are really productive when you think about them as tools for speculative design. So what is speculative design? And to kind of sum it up, I'd say that speculative design is a practice that focuses on exploring and illustrating possible futures. Rather than designing for immediate practical needs, speculative design provokes thought, discussion, and critical reflection about potential societal, cultural, ethical, and environmental futures. It's often said to challenge assumptions and conventions about the role that products or services play in our lives and generate new ideas about how things could be different. Speculative design often involves creating scenarios or stories or artifacts like these photos that demonstrate or visualize these potential futures. And really, speculative design helps us think critically about what could be. It's closely related to critical design, which is a term coined by designers Anthony Doon and Fiona Raby, authors of the book Speculative Everything. And critical design, similarly, it uses speculative design methods to challenge the status quo and encourage people to consider their relationship with the designed world. Speculative design often intersects with technology, science, politics, and sociology. It can involve anything from designing speculative products or systems to envisioning entirely new types of societies. It's intended to inspire, provoke, and engage the public in a dialogue about potential and preferable futures. So really, I believe that I was engaging in speculative design when I used AI to imagine and consider different futures for the lot across the street from my house. And while my own work focuses on using AI images to augment written arguments about urban spaces, I think that the same lens could be applied to a lot of different subjects. So during this last year, when I have been evaluating my passion project through an academic lens, I've identified 4 concepts to consider when using AI as a tool for speculative design. And I've noticed these concepts kind of threaded throughout this work. And the first one is that artifacts made through speculative design create publics. And by this, I mean that you can use AI to create images that draw people together through their shared attention to the text or the photo that you've constructed. And Michael Warner and Jenny Rice both talk about how the creation of publics encourages people to see themselves an issue and how they're involved in the issue in a very particular way. So imagine how a public might be constructed around an image of a new park replacing an abandoned hotel in a low-income neighborhood. Neighbors, elected officials, people who rent, people who own their homes, they might start seeing their neighborhood and maybe even start seeing themselves as members of the neighborhood in new ways. Green talks about how technology may be used to create new kinds of public orientations, and he says, I really like this quote, rather than reducing the function of a digital text to its ability or its inability to persuade a pre-given group of people, we should also attempt to understand how emerging technological infrastructures facilitate new formations of publicness itself. Although Green's discussing AR tools, it's not a stretch to imagine that speculative design will soon play a major role in that area as well. So here's a few of the images that I've made, and it's interesting to consider what kind of publics could be created by sharing these in different forums. Here I'm imagining a mostly empty parking lot as a roller skating and ice rink. Imagining what could happen if we added more housing. The second point I wanted to highlight is that speculative design can initiate effective movement. Drawing on the ideas of Gregg and Sagworth, affect can be used to describe embodied forces of encounter that exist prior to emotion and conscious thought and drive humans towards new kinds of movement, thought, or feeling. Purposefully designing for effect can help us encourage a public to do something about what they're reading, actually move towards some kind of end. And that's one reason why I think these AI image generators have so much potential. If you're writing a text that's very heavy on logic and facts, which is often common in urban design, you may make a more compelling case by augmenting logic-heavy text with speculative images. By combining these two, we may be better able to both persuade and encourage action. More importantly, perhaps, we may be able to create a new kind of public orientation for our audience, just like Warner and Rice are talking about. And for an example here, I wanted to talk about Utah Lake. Here in Utah, our lake is drying up. It's been going like this for years, and it's a major problem not only because we rely on the water from the lake, but also because years of industrial waste are sedimented at the bottom of the lake. So if we allow the lake to dry all the way, we're in big trouble because we will potentially have toxic dust storms, making a large amount of the state uninhabitable. Right now, you can see pictures of the lake and it's definitely drying up, but it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. It's kind of hard to understand the full gravity of the situation from those images, particularly because it's the salt lake rather than like a fresh body of water, and it has kind of some weird features. It's weird for a lake. So one way that I think you could use this speculative design is to create something like this. When I see this image that was created through AI, like I have a guttural feeling to it. I have a response, just immediately seeing it. And I think when we see the lake drying, we start seeing futures, and even if they're bad futures, they kind of help us understand what we want for ourselves and for our communities. The third point is that speculative design can be a tool for value negotiation and identity formation. So in my city, there's always a lot of talk about the need for more and more parking, even when we have huge empty lots that take up a ton of space in our downtown. And in my work with community groups, we often end up discussing parking in terms of a negotiation of values. So what do we gain with the new parking lot? What do we lose? And what does that say about us and our values? And I actually see a lot of possibilities for speculative design in these discussions. For example, a place like the Eiffel Tower draws in a lot of people who need to get there somehow. What if the area around the tower was transformed into a more convenient and large parking lot? What would that change about the nature of the place? Is there something about the identity of the place and the people there that resist a parking lot, even if having one there might be more convenient? And finally, I just wanted to say that new AI tools are making it easier for people to engage in speculative design themselves, not just to see it as audience members, but to get in there and make things. AI tools like DALL-E and Midjourney are becoming better and easier to use, and I think that one of the most powerful things we can do rhetorically is invite others to engage in speculative design with us, especially our students. Imagine asking a citizen group or a classroom or a workplace to come up with a bunch of speculatively designed images for a particular scenario, and then try discussing them as a group. I think one of the most exciting parts of this technology, in my mind, is the ability for people to become the designers themselves. Um, there's a lot of concern and caution around AI, and rightfully so, but I think that this aspect is kind of a positive and a unique way to experiment with the technology. So, on that note, I'd invite you to take a look at the prompt guide I made if you'd like, and feel free to share it with anyone that you like. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you'd like to chat about these ideas or anything related to rhetoric and urban design, I'd love to chat with you or hear any feedback. There's my contact information, and I appreciate it. Bye bye.